Hello and welcome to the first episode of Creator Spotlight Season 3 from The Interface. Creator Spotlight is our series where we talk to creators about what they make and do and how they got started. Today I'm joined by James Regler, otherwise known as Jim the IT Guy on YouTube. Welcome, James.
Thank you for having me. Jim's fine.
Jim, nice one. Cool. So for people who don't know much about you, you make IT videos on YouTube essentially, primarily on Ubiquity, sort of following some of what other people do a little bit, but yeah, just give me a rough description of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be educational videos in and around IT-related subjects, focusing primarily on sort of business use case with technology, trying to bring a technology, an opinion to technology that might not be presented by other people of tech in the social media scene.
Nice one. And what made you first? So I'm guessing you got Influx Solutions, which is your sort of consulting business. What made you move into doing videos? Is it sort of a marketing thing, or?
No, it was more back when I first started to do videos. We had not yet formed Influx Solutions, so it was seeing what was being presented on places like YouTube, on most social media channels, and sort of having to step back and say, actually, that's not how it is in the real world, and trying to sort of come across and bring forward a view and to put what may be a slightly different opinion on subjects that I didn't think were being presented accurately. There was a big emphasis on doing, I say, sort of silly and crazy things, which is always fun. But then coming across some of those silly and crazy things in the real world not working at all well.
Yeah.
So being able to try and educate people as to why this is a fun thing to do, but in the real world, what you would actually do is this.
Yeah. Have you got any examples of that?
One of the biggest examples I found, and it was done by quite a few content creators, was the multiple people using one computer to do, whether it's drawings, gaming, things like that. We came across a client where someone had set up that exact configuration where they had 2 or 3 people sharing one computer to try and save money, was the whole aspect of it, to try and save them having to buy expensive hardware multiple times, only to find out that it didn't work well at all, it wasn't stable, and they'd gone down this path thinking, as it had been presented as, oh, look, it works fantastically, but it doesn't. And then having to explain to them why you don't do it in the real world, why there's stability, reliability, support issues around such a thing like that, and that sort of thing. So that was one example that I kept coming over time and time again, and you're just like, you know what, maybe someone needs to say no to some people sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. You can, especially that sort of thing. You can cater to someone's needs and to say yes all the time, but that makes sense. Sometimes, they might not know what they want. Sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. It's that sort of thing. It's trying to explain that there is a difference in IT between what you may do for a residential consumer and a business and a company, and even in business between small business and full-blown enterprise. There are differences in how things are done, and there are reasons why things are done in that way.
Yeah, definitely. So with the videos, have you found that it's a marketing tool for you?
Not massively, in all honesty. I don't try and do it to present as a marketing tool. I do it to try and educate and inform. And if anything comes of it, it comes of it. It's not something that I'm actively spending time trying to drum up business for ourselves as a company, because we don't really, it's not that we don't need the business is always lovely, but at the same time we are a small business and we are a focused business, and we focus on our clients and we keep our clients very, very long term. There is an aspect to it where, yes, it is nice, occasionally we'll get the odd inquiry and pick up the odd little bit of business from it, which is lovely. But I'm not trying to drive lots and
No.
lots of business from it because it would overwhelm us. And I don't get enough time during the day to make a lot of content anyway. Therefore, I'd rather focus on the business, social
Yeah.
media aspect, and the content aspect come along in my spare time to help inform and educate. And especially as we get introduced to new technology, it's nice to be able to present it and say, this is this piece of technology. Either we would use it like this, or we already use it like this, or we don't use it, but it's a good piece of tech that we might consider to use in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you use to edit the videos mainly? Do you use
I use Premiere Pro
Okay.
for my sins. It's not the easiest learning curve, I will say that. As someone who's only been actually like editing videos for a couple of years,
Yeah.
it's quite a task. And it doesn't help when Adobe go, hey, look, we've got a new idea, and suddenly the interface changes, and you're just like, oh, great, I've got to relearn everything. So yes, I have looked at other solutions. I've not found anything that really, as much as Premiere Pro is awkward, it's also what I'm kind of comfortable with using now. So
Yeah.
yourself?
I use Final Cut Pro. I've been editing videos for about a year now, just over a year. So I find that pretty good. I haven't found any weird like stability problems with it, but it's pretty good for what I need it to do. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, it's big. Final Cut is Mac, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Again, say we're solely PC. We're not, but we support Mac systems. But my environment is Windows, therefore
Yeah.
I'm
Makes sense.
limited by what I can run here, and I can't really invest in having a Mac just sat around for social media editing.
Yeah.
The other half of the business would have a whinge.
Yeah. How do you do all the live stuff? Because I watched a live video of yours a while back, and it was a lot of camera changes and stuff.
uh,
Like, yeah.
OBS.
Okay.
I use so when normally what you'll see is if I'm live on YouTube or um, on TikTok. I
Yep.
will if I'm on TikTok, I'll probably either be sat at my desk here, which I am now. This is where I work from,
Yep.
or I will be up in the loft space, which is where the workshop is. Hence the live from the lofts, um, and obviously live on. If I'm live on TikTok, I'm using a phone.
Yep.
Occasionally on here using their app. But if I'm live on YouTube, I will be up there with OBS running on my main machine up there, Stream Deck. I've got a couple of HDMI. Well, I've got HDMI input off of one camera. I've got webcams on arms.
Mm.
Just because it's one of those things, being able to go and move around is in that sort of environment. Um, Again, trying to make the lives a bit more interactive with people,
Mm.
where when people come in and have a question, I can go and answer it, or I can go and grab the bits that I need to answer it because I've got, as if anyone has watched them, up in the loft, it is a storeroom, it's a workshop, there's all sorts tucked away up there, both old and new. And if someone comes in and says, "How do I do this?" I can go
Yep.
and grab the bits and say, "This is how you do it."
Yeah, it's useful.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I just thought it was quite impressive with all the camera changes and things. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm looking at. There are some fun toys that I have looked at in terms of a proper video deck
Mm.
that aren't too expensive with HDMI in and things like that. That I have looked at in the past. Funds permitting, most of the funds unfortunately go on like silly bits of hardware, not
Yeah.
cameras. I need to change that. I need to add some to that.
Yeah, definitely. Just drawing on your background a little bit. How did you get into IT as a start? So my day job stuff is IT anyway, but sort of got into it from school and sort of
Yeah,
so yeah.
um, many years ago now, due to the fact that I'm old, so to speak. I started straight out of secondary school, which obviously UK based, so secondary
Yep.
school. Work experience, I got a placement in a local IT company where I used to be. Started there, did a week, got thrown in at the deep end, and I was dealing with computers before then. Little bit of sort of hobby. I had some old computers and I would build things, that sort of thing. But yeah, straight out of secondary school into an IT company. Um, did 10 years coming up through, so from effectively apprentice to a certain degree, up through to being lead tech there, and then relocated 200 miles away from that company to cover effectively for that company in a different part of the UK. That was back late 2000s when the economy hiccuped, we'll say. At which point I was getting up on a Monday, driving 200 miles to work, to then drive back at the end of the week. And it was untenable after a while. So I then went off on my own as a consultant, was doing IT work and other work, until I built the IT side up to the point where it was my sole focus. Then obviously the great lockdown hit, and myself and my business partner, who we both effectively started at the same company, so like 20 years ago. So we've been working together. We went not our separate ways. He went off into the management side of things. I stayed in the consulting side. So he would call on me to fix things for him, for the companies he was at. And then he eventually migrated into the consulting side of things like myself. We were again back at the same company consulting for them. And we decided, look, we've known each other for long enough, and therefore we formed Influx. And the rest, as they say, is history. We basically picked up both of our client bases, put them together, which we'd sort of carried with us for many, many years. And I'm happy to say we've still got them all. So
that's good.
And we've grown, and that's the main part of it. So yeah, it's something that, coming up from effectively, I think that I class it as the right age and the right era to get into IT before it became, don't want to say this, but too easy. Versus again, some of my, as I can call them, my seniors, where they were in through the 80s and the 90s, dealing with a lot more hands-on IT.
Definitely, yeah.
So,
yeah. As a business, how much? I know Ubiquity is quite a popular product to be using at the moment. How much stuff do you do in that space? You could obviously do IT stuff for computers and that sort of thing, and then networking. So
yes, Ubiquity. We do a lot of Ubiquity work. They are our primary network infrastructure solution. That's not to say we don't use other brands. We use Netgear, we use Sophos, we use Cisco where needed, and TP-Link, a few others. But the simple facts are that they fit a very good use case, and they fit our use case. So that's why we use them. We're comfortable with them. We know their higher limits and their lower limits, and that's something that we're aware of. But alongside that, we're not solely stuck with them. If another solution is a better fit, we will use another solution as a better fit. And as long as people understand that some solutions are purchase once, free forever, other solutions are pay to play.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a not a hot. Is it a hot topic? I don't think it is, but just seems to be some sort of controversial sometimes about using Ubiquity in certain situations. It's interesting how that plays out. So
yes, there is a underlying tone to some people where, unfortunately, Ubiquity has made networking and more advanced networking very, very easy to do. So unfortunately, the plus side to that is it's made it so that people can set up more advanced, more secure networks in a very easy way. The downside to that is people try and use it in situations where it's not appropriate, and then it fails or it has a problem. And
that makes sense.
Because the support, as much as people berate Ubiquity for their support methodology, if you need 24/7, 365 support at the end of a phone line, Ubiquity is not for you. If you need that level of support, you will have to go to a paid service. If you are happy to troubleshoot, or you have a partner like ourselves to troubleshoot for you, to work through issues, to try and find what's going wrong, then maybe it is the right solution for you. On the other side of it, and this is the unfortunate side effect of it, it has made things very, very easy to do. People feel it has devalued their knowledge in things like some of the higher brands, so the Ciscos, the Junipers, things like that, because they used to be able to sell a product, sell the time to configure the product, and now people come along and go, I don't want to pay for this premium product and your premium time because I can do it all myself with this simple off-the-shelf product. And that upsets some people, whereas we're like, not a problem, we'll help you, and we'll get you set up. And I would rather see a customer be successful and a client be successful and safe and secure versus them having to go and be, unfortunately, have a lot of money taken out of their bank accounts and then not gain anything from it other than a pretty little stamp that says we use Cisco, we use this. So that, unfortunately, is some of it's always going to be a touchy subject in the IT community because unfortunately people seem to feel that because making things easy sometimes shouldn't be done because it devalues them.
I can see that side.
Yeah. It's that issue, and unfortunately, because it makes things easy, people see a product and they use it in the wrong use case, and then they get problems, and then that causes people to say, "I told you so." It's that sort of balancing act. You have to know when you use a product and why you use a product, and that's where being old and having some experience is useful. So yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned you use TP-Link as well. So would there be situations where you just say, okay, Ubiquity's not going to work here, I'd use TP-Link instead, or does that not work that way? Or
it does. In all honesty, it doesn't really normally work that way.
Okay.
There is almost a hierarchy to product choice. There are certain TP-Link products that are 98% identical to Ubiquity. When TP-Link launched their Armada product range, for example, that was launched quite a few years ago, and it was when it launched a carbon copy of Ubiquity Unify. If you logged into the controller and tried to do anything in the controller for Armada back then, you were just like, well, this is Ubiquity from 5-6 years ago. So, and that's what it was. Now, TP-Link have the advantage that they're a very big company. They manufacture a lot of their own products, and obviously they go off and they will either acquire products or they will license products. Now, it wasn't just TP-Link and their Armada range that do a like-for-like comparison to Ubiquity's Unify. So TP-Link also launched their Pharos range, which is a like-for-like comparison to Ubiquity's AirMax range, which are their big point-to-point links.
Yeah.
So much so that the interface is 99.9% identical. You could substitute Ubiquity's AirOS to TP-Link's Pharos, and all they did basically was change the logo and a few graphics. So take from that what you will. And the products were cheaper because they were from TP-Link, because they manufactured them. So that's one of the things that is why we always put them effectively underneath Unify, because they're the same product just from a few years ago without all of the features that you can get in Unify or Ubiquity. For the same, but in the same reason that sometimes you may just want, to all intents and purposes, a dumb switch, a simple layer 2 switch with no management. At which case, a TP-Link switch, no problem. It's easier to get a switch for that because full credit to TP-Link. I know if I put that in now, I could go back to that switch in 10 years' time, and it will still be working. So it's picking the right hardware for the right reasons for the right use.
Yep.
And again, it kind of, a lot of the hardware side of thing came to a head during lockdown when there was hardware shortages, and that spawned a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon to say, "Oh, well, we don't want to use them because they've got no stock," or we've gone over to XYZ company because Unify Ubiquiti have got no stock. Nobody had stock
Yeah.
at that point, but because companies like TP-Link manufactured themselves, they could maintain selling and stock throughout because they prioritized themselves, obviously.
Yeah. I think Ubiquiti recovered now with stock.
Yes.
Just about.
Yes.
So,
It's back to what it was pre-lockdown,
yeah.
where not everything is in stock all the time, which has always been the case with them. Anything that is popular, anything that is a bit niche, will be out of stock periodically. It's something that is quite apparent in the community, is that some people do not have any patience. It is that sort of thing where when they say, I need this product and I need it now, when you say, well, you might have to wait a few days, then they have a problem. And then the toys get thrown out of the pram and we're moving to such and such a brand. And you're
I see that a lot, yeah.
Off you go. We'll
Yep.
see you next week when you come back. And you've cooled down. So, yes.
Yeah. No, I see that quite a lot on the forums, so people, yeah.
It's the same, and it's the same with to stay on the Ubiquiti side of things.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same with the end of life argument. The running joke is that Ubiquiti launched a product and it's end of life straight away. Anyone who has been using Ubiquiti products for any long time, we are still retiring APs that are still in use. Some of them have been in use for over 10 years, and they had a supported lifespan of 8 to 9 years. The vast majority of Ubiquiti's products, especially in the Unify range, are still supported. There are very few in the grand scheme of things that made it that got end of lifed quickly.
Well, yeah, for example, with the Protect stuff, you can still technically use GT products with it.
This is it.
Very impressive, yeah.
Yeah, and that is exactly it. People, there's always the push to the latest and greatest, and new things are always fun and shiny to play with. But there is also a reason why certain product ranges stay as they are, because they do just work and they do the job that they were originally designed to do, and they're still updated. It's the same with any of their product ranges. Yes, there have been some products that never even made it out of the good old early access software or the early access program, which in a way, I am obviously, for anyone who is unaware, Ubiquiti canned their early access hardware side because unfortunately, I think it was causing them too much problem, and it was causing people, unfortunately, who didn't understand what the concept was of early access. And that was another problem, was people selling early access hardware to businesses as a solution, only to find out that the piece of hardware that they sold them never made it to production. And now they have to rip out the system. And they'll go and they'll complain because Ubiquiti didn't take something that was early access into full production when that was never guaranteed. And I had to explain that to people many times, saying, look, you're selling a product to a client, this product might vanish tomorrow. What are you going to do then? And they're like, oh, no, it won't. And then it does.
Yeah.
The famous Ubiquiti, it was the leaf switch. It's been in early access twice. It's disappeared from early access twice. So, and I know there is, every time it came back in, people were like, oh, excellent, I needed that for this project, or I've got one of the first ones, I need it. And they'll go and they'll put the next generation in, and then they vanish. So, yes, much fun. Yes.
Yeah, there's also some of the bits about you couldn't review them or you couldn't make videos about them, and just made things a little bit difficult. And they changed things, so
Yes, that was the key aspect of it. You could, if you wanted to skirt the rules, you could drop subtle hints. I may well have done that a few times with certain products. You could not review them. You could not post a public opinion on them. All feedback and talk about them had to be contained to the Ubiquiti early access forums.
yep,
So, when, for example, the Dreamwall, I have a Dreamwall here, an early access Dreamwall. It's what I'm currently using as my main internet gateway. When it first came out, plenty of feedback was given by those of us who had them and had set them up and configured them, that it wasn't quite right. It's fine, it operates fine, but there was some silly decision choices, and they then went away, made a couple of minor changes between early access and general access,
yep,
and we gained a nice, pretty long screen and a hole in the back, which was like, great, but I've still got nowhere to put a hard disk for Protect to record. Now, we were hoping, and as it was all announced in the big fanfare from them, and this is where their marketing team and their product team seem to be very detached, or historically were very detached. We had a big marketing fanfare and a big video showing the Dreamwall Pro with a nice big screen and hard disks going into it. That was probably 6 to 8 months ago. It's vanished off the face of the earth. Now, this is where Ubiquiti are their own worst enemy, because they will announce and they will demo and they will show and they will tease things like that, and people will get worked up over it, and that's where the early access program kind of failed, because people would be like waiting for the next shiny thing to buy, waiting for the next thing to acquire, to put on the Ubiquiti Unify wall almost.
yeah,
There are people I know that are out there that are collecting every bit of Unify hardware just so they have every single bit to put in collection, just hardware collections.
yeah,
Which is quite a novel idea, I think. There are certain bits of there are even bits of Unify hardware that never made it off the brochure. There is
right,
one AP that I do know of from many, many years ago that only ever existed on paper. You couldn't buy them. They never made them. No one has found one, but they were advertised. So, it's not a new thing. They've been doing this for like a decade or so, and that is where problems arise, because people are expecting a certain product, it never arrives, and then what we get is something silly, or we'll get an improved camera, or a camera that fits a very, very niche situation.
yeah.
So yeah, that's Ubiquiti in a nutshell. We love them and hate them, but we work with them because they do what we need them to do.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So yes, it's a very frustrating sometimes company to work with.
Yeah, but they do make good stuff. The Protect stuff's really good, so...
This is exactly it. That's why this is trying to explain that to people. Protect CCTV from Ubiquiti is a very, very good system because it's not complicated.
Yeah.
We don't even need to install it. When you tell that to CCTV installers, they absolutely hate it because, again, it devalues what they think is valuable work. Anyone with a little bit of technological understanding and knowledge can install a Protect system. Very, very easy to do.
Yep.
And not only that, once it's installed and it works and it keeps itself up to date, you have a system that you could just hand to anyone and they understand it. Our client, this is the big thing, our clients love it. We've got systems out there with tens and tens and tens of cameras. And with Ubiquiti developing it continuously, stacking has now come along, so we can make it easy for multiple NVRs to work together. They love it because it's not overly complicated. Not everybody needs a CCTV system that can identify a fly on the wall and give it a name. Most people want to see what's going on quickly, easily, and if they need to download it, they go tap, 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 send it to the local police department, etc., and they're happy. And
Yeah.
then they move on with their lives. They don't want to have to come in and say, like, call us in to say, can you extract the footage between this time and this time, and we need it in a format that works with this, a la traditional CCTV systems. And at the same time, when they say, oh, I need an additional camera here, you go, yeah, no problem, plug, plug.
Yep.
And it's done. There's no, sorry, you can't do that. You need a new NVR because you've only got a 4-channel NVR and you want 6 cameras. Oh, you should have bought the 8-channel. It's going to cost you £1,000 more because we need to swap the NVR out and things like that. So it upsets the state. It's upset the status quo, and that's what historically Ubiquity have always done. They come in as a disruptive force and a disruptive company into a market segment, and they might not stay in that market segment. They might decide, no, that's not for us, and disappear out, which they've done with LED lighting, they've done with solar panels. But there's others where they've come in, obviously, internet and Wi-Fi, networking, point-to-point links was obviously their main initial thing, making those cheap and effective. CCTV, door access, and also in the future with UID, identity management of the whole lot, making it easy for people. Electric car chargers is the other one.
Yeah.
The famous electric car charger.
Yeah, and then the phone system is famously one that they've tried and then come back to. So
yes,
yeah,
yes. Unify voice, and then Unify talk.
yeah,
The famous phone system that they basically redid the hardware a little bit. So you have to be a bit careful when you're buying Unify phones off of the second-hand market because the Unify voice phones are 99% identical to the Unify talk phones, but they won't work.
Yeah.
And that has caught a few people out in the past. I have seen that where people have tried. They bought a phone, and the only visual difference, I believe, is the logo on the front.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, aesthetically they're the same.
Yeah. There's a few other changes.
Whoops. Yes, but that is again the same thing was with obviously Unify Video and Unify Protect.
Yes, that's right.
That obviously rattled a few cages because video was out there. It did a reasonable job, but the key aspect was you could run it on your own hardware for free. Unify come along with the Protect range, which they realised that they were spending a lot of time and effort supporting people on the video system, where they were trying to record 50, 100 cameras to hardware that just wasn't up to the task. But because it was free software, they're not making any money from that. They're actually losing money on the video side of things. So will they sell a camera? And the cameras, again, were priced to disrupt, so they weren't expensive. And obviously they came along and said, you know what, let's kind of lock this down a bit and control it a bit, but keep the flexibility of the system there. Protect came along. At the time, saw it straight away, it was like, right, we need to transition any video system we've got over to Protect quickly because video is going to just vanish. It's going to go. So, yeah, that's where they were. And that upset a lot of people because a lot of people were earning a lot of money with a CCTV system that they didn't have to pay for on hardware that they were comfortable running it on. And they got told, sorry, we're abandoning that product. And you'll have to unfortunately deal with the fallout yourselves now because we can't afford to support it. They supported it for a period of time for transition and informed people that, sorry, you're going to have to transition, and if it's not the right product and it's not the right use case for it anymore, you're going to have to find something else. and that upset people surprisingly.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we wrap up, have you got any advice for anyone that's looking to either get into making IT videos or even get into IT consulting as a job?
I say this. So getting into IT, I say this to anyone that asks me this question. If you are new, if you are looking at changing job roles, start at the bottom. Start on a help desk. Go and find a help desk. Go and find a local IT company that just wants some first line help, and get a gist of what it's like working with end users at the bottom. It might not be your thing, but it gets you an impression of what actually goes on at the bottom, and work from there.
Sure.
If it's not your thing and you don't think it's for you, then you've not lost anything really. You can transition away, or you can use it as a way to focus on which direction you want to go, whether you want to go into software, whether you want to go into infrastructure and hardware, whether you're going into cybersecurity and cloud and everything that goes with that. The general, unfortunately, with IT, there is a very heavily pushed marketing side of it from training companies that say, if you come into IT, just get this certification and you'll be on this much money. That is a lie. What they don't tell you is, if you have this certification and this much experience, then you might be able to earn this much money. They're kind of short-circuiting it. The simple fact, the way I put it, you can buy certifications, you cannot buy experience. If you spend the time, get the experience, and get the certificates, because the certificates are a good way to confirm that you know what you think you know, and maybe you learned something that you didn't know through it, and put that knowledge to good use in your job. You will then go up the ladder and you will advance. On the video side of things, pick a subject, work with that subject, because you need something that differentiates you from the rest. We cover Ubiquity because it's what we use, but I don't try and stay solely on Ubiquity, because there's a lot of other tech people out there covering it day to day, and they have a lot more time to spend and do a lot more in-depth detail on it. I try and present a unique perspective on it as to not what the product does. I would try and present why the product fits what we need it for, and might fit what you need it for.
Sure. Yeah, it's really good. And yeah, your videos are, I think they are quite unique in sort of your take on them. So they are good. So
yes.
Yeah. Cool. So I think that's all we've got time for, if that's okay.
Not a problem.
Yeah, if people want to find out more about what you make and do online, where can they find you on the internet?
I am at Jim the IT Guy pretty much on every single social media platform. So YouTube, TikTok, X, or is it Twitter still?
That's X, yeah.
Instagram, Threads. I am on Mastodon and a few others, but I don't really use them at the moment because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, just if needs be, on all of my YouTube videos, in the comments or in the description, there's a link to my Discord channel as well if people want to hop in there. There's a small but friendly community in there that's ever growing, and just ask questions. It's the way I say. Same with anyone on anything. If you ask me a question, I will do my best to answer it, or point you where you should be looking to answer it.
That's good, definitely. Yeah, definitely check out James's YouTube channel. It's really good. And then you can find out more about the interface at theinterface.uk. We've got quite a few podcasts now, and we do news and reviews of different things. So all the links in the description down below. Thanks for watching this video, and thanks for listening to this podcast, however you've been listening to it. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks, James.
For having me.
Cheers.